Okay, so we're recording this partly because it's boiling, and partly because we wanted to find our own way of saying things. So this is our understanding, and it's just our understanding, but let's go from here. So what's climate change? Well, actually we find it useful to step back one and start with global warming, because it's global warming that causes climate change. So to get an easy understanding of what global warming is, let's just imagine ourselves in a car on a really hot day. So the sun is blazing down, the windows are up, and the doors are locked, and we can never, ever open the door. That's basically it. So we've all heard about greenhouse gases, and the greenhouse effect was one of the singular worst pieces of PR for the planet, because really it should have been called the microwave effect. So there's four main types of greenhouse gases, and for the purposes of what we're talking about, we're really going to talk about carbon dioxide and methane. So that's CO2 and CH4. And basically greenhouse gases act as a blanket around the Earth. So when the heat from the sun comes in, it basically gets trapped, and most of it can't get back out again. So we heat up and we heat up and we heat up, and the reason it's even more of a problem is because it's really accelerating. Well, the saddest reason is that overarches all of them is that it's pretty much entirely man-made. So there's four main contributors. These are the big hitters. One is fossil fuels. So our society pretty much entirely runs on fossil fuels. So it's how we get around, to how we heat and cool ourselves, to how all our manufacturing is done, all of that sort of stuff. Second is industrial agriculture and deforestation, which are really both sides of the same coin. And with industrial agriculture, we're really talking about, in the main, livestock farming. And deforestation happens largely to clear the land, to grow the food, to feed them. So that's the second. The third, believe it or not, is cement. And the fourth, which is the big elephant in the room, is population. So the consequences are already here. I mean, we're all seeing it happen. City of Chennai running out of water, scary bushfires in California and Australia and other places, temperatures in Europe going above 40 degrees this summer, Greenland melting far, far, far more than was ever predicted, superstorms and floods getting worse and more frequent, and now the Amazon on fire. I mean, it's really kicking off. We still do have this window of opportunity in which we can still act to mitigate it. Nobody's exactly sure how long that is. So according to some, we've got to get to 50% of carbon emissions by 2030. And according to others, that's just not fast enough, and we have to get to carbon zero by 2025. Either way, there doesn't really seem to be much point arguing about it. It just seems like we have to super urgently get on with it. And the reason that makes it even more urgent is because there's a danger of it setting off tipping points. So when tipping points happen, it's basically completely beyond our control, it's runaway climate change, and it's game over. All of that is really big and really hairy and really scary. And what on earth can we do? Well, the good news is we can do a lot. So far from being powerless bystanders waiting for the governments to get on the program, which, by the way, they need to do, and they need to do really fast, we have influence. So we found it really helpful for ourselves to distill it down, and we did that in kind of four main ways. So one is political, so that's through our vote and through other forms of activism like the climate strikes. The second is through our buying power. So in other words, what we buy or don't buy, where we buy it from or don't buy it from, what we invest in or not, where we bank or not, creates the world we want to have. So that's a lot of power right there. The third was more direct, so using our money or efforts, depending on what we have, into direct regeneration. So for example, using a small portion of our earnings, or a lot, depending, to fund the Rainforest Alliance, for example, for the regeneration of the the rainforests. So that would be another way. That's the third way. The fourth is the small matter of us. So as a society, we've got into some not so great habits where unwittingly we consume like there's no tomorrow, which if we carry on this way, there might not be. But because consumption is directly linked to emissions, that's our impact right there. So by shifting our lifestyles and habits towards using less, wasting less, sharing more, making more conscious choices, not just in terms of what we buy, but how we travel and how we live, we can make a really big difference. With those 4 ways, and that's by no means comprehensive, that's a lot of influence we have. But it can still feel overwhelming. Where do I even start with this? This is too huge. And also, well, will it actually really make any difference? What is the point of me having a shorter shower to conserve on water if everyone else is sat in a jacuzzi? But that's really why we've done this, so that together we can all take consistent, relatively easy but surprisingly powerful action, and that because there's a lot of us doing it, it has impact. Plus, of course, it has a knock-on effect. So the more that we do, people see how we're shifting things, and it makes them think. And get this. So out of the 5 main ways to reduce global emissions, number 3 and 4 on the list are cutting food waste and reducing our consumption of meat. And those come before restoring the tropical forests. We know. And guess who can make those changes? We know. So we can have a real impact. Everyone's needed. Governments are needed. Businesses are needed. We're needed. But we don't need to wait. It's our planet. It's our children. It's our home. Who else is going to do it? We've got to do this. We can't hang about. And the only way we can do it is together. Can we do this? Can we do this together? Knew you'd say yes.